Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pitchside Podcast channel. I'm your host, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share, comment on this video. Most importantly, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Enable notifications to receive all the updates from this channel. Follow us on social media. I'm at PSP on Twitter, Pitchside Pod on Instagram, and you can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform. Kicking off this debate, of course, it's not as much as big debate. It's not going to be that elaborate, but I think quick points and quick thoughts about Thomas Tuchel's appointment at Chelsea. Of course, was confirmed yesterday that he will be the new boss for the foreseeable future at the club, and certainly his first game is going to be tonight against Wolves. At the time of recording this, it will be against Wolves on Thursday, the big game for Chelsea, which I'm certainly going to be doing a recap for, to assess what is going to be looking kind of different, if anything is going to be looking different for Thomas Tuchel at Chelsea. Certainly the expectations are quite big. Let's not downplay this. Let's get straight into the business. I think straight off the bat, the expectations are really big for Thomas Tuchel at Chelsea Football Club. The board is really impatient with managers. If anything that we know from the past experiences is that the board of Chelsea is pretty impatient when it comes to managers, so the expectations and the pressure is going to be already on his back to try to achieve something in the near future. I doubt that he will achieve something this season, because from the looks of it, he's not going to have a lot of room to maneuver unless, they allow him the freedom to do whatever he likes on the squad, because I'm sure he has some transfer targets in mind. There's been talks about the fact that he wants to bring Marquinhos to the club, that he wants to bring Haaland in the summer. We will be judging him in the summer. That's what I think we should judge him. We will judge him in the summer on his transfer windows, and we'll judge him probably around this time next year, probably in the next season. That is better for us to judge and to have a proper opinion on what Tuchel could do at Chelsea. There's, of course, the tactical expectations as well, the technical expectation, game plan-wise, how he's going to be changing the side, what formation he's going to be using, because he's quite flexible tactically, almost to the point of being uncertain and unstable about the fact how he places his players on the pitch. Sometimes he relies on a 4-3-3, sometimes he relies on a 4-4-2, even relying on a 3-5-2 at PSG, which was weird considering the talent that they have up front, and they have a front three that is undroppable, really. You cannot drop any of them. How exactly you play with a 3-5-2 in that, I don't know. But he managed to find a way around it, and he has his achievements. At Dortmund, I think he was underrated, I would say. He should have gotten more credit than people give him credit for. Dortmund, he's the highest, he's the manager with the highest win percentage there. He's the manager with the highest point ratio, and all of the managers since Jurgen Klopp took over that club and left in 2015. So it's not exactly, that he's bad. It's that the achievements that he made are not exactly big. Reaching the Champions League final, Pochettino did that. Loads of managers did that. Jurgen Klopp did that before him with Dortmund. So until that point, I don't think that anyone considered Dortmund one of the biggest managers in the game. Certainly, going to the final of the Champions League doesn't make Tuchel one of the greatest managers of all time or greatest managers at the moment, but he's a very good manager. And there's of course a difference between being great and being very good. And that is that extra step of winning Champions Leagues, of winning trophies when it matters. And yes, he won league with France twice, and that's expected. It's Ligue 1, let's face it, and the gap between PSG and the other clubs in France is even wider than the gap between some other clubs in other leagues, like between Bayern and the other teams in Germany, or Juventus and the other teams in Italy. So that's kind of expected. He won the treble in France. He won, multiple titles, a Champions League final, which is, going to be decent by his standards. Left his place to Mauricio Pochettino now, and that's another talk for another video. Now at Chelsea, of course, the reports that suggesting that the use of the youth player is going to be continuing. It's a trait that Frank Lampard pretty much established now in the Chelsea system, that they need to use more youth players aside from bringing players from other clubs, which I think almost hurt Chelsea at a certain point in the last couple of seasons. Now probably they're starting to turn more into youth academy prodigies, the likes of Mason Mount, the likes of Gilmore, the likes of Reece James, of course, probably the biggest exploit and the biggest prospect over them all. He's already an international now. He's already on, I don't think 80 games already now with Chelsea, which is bonkers, to consider how young he is and how inexperienced he is. Also the prospects that left the club, the likes of Tariq Lamptey, Fikayo Tomori now leaving to AC Milan on a loan. Those kind of traits that Thomas Tuchel, I think, accepted to stay at the club. He doesn't want to clash with the board of the club since the first day, just because he doesn't want to use youth. And clearly he's accepting that because he is waiting for the summer to get the targets that he wants. Again, I mentioned the likes of Haaland and Marquinhos, two of the targets that he wants to bring to the club in the summer. I mean, the Haaland one may be a little bit far-fetched, depending on the finances, really, but I'm not sure that Chelsea are not sure of finances, but maybe that data is a little bit far-fetched. The expectations again from Tuchel this season and rest of these. This is a frequent question. Like, is Chelsea going to be satisfied, for example, with just a top half finish, considering that they are now, 10th, are going to be, satisfied, for example, and content with the 7th place or 6th place or a Europa League spot, which I don't think they will accept? Or will they, be pressuring him to finish in the top 4? There is not a clear objective at the moment, and the Premier League is so inconsistent that you cannot say, for example, that okay, here's a top 4 that is consistent, or that is a top 4 that is pretty much set in stone, and that we cannot get to it. I mean, the Premier League now has West Ham in its top 4, so there's no guarantee what's going to be happening to other clubs in the top 4, or even the clubs behind them. Like, you cannot guarantee, for example, that Arsenal are going to be, still in the mid regions of the table. Maybe they will go up, maybe they will go down. Who knows what the rest of the season is going to bring? So for Tuchel now, it's pretty foggy kind of vision of what Chelsea should achieve and what they need to make as sort of objectives for the rest of the season. Again, should they make a top 4 finish their priority? Should they go for, winning the FA Cup as they still on that, and guaranteeing a European spot in the Europa League, regardless of what's going to happen in the Premier League title race or the Premier League, table, and how they're going to finish in the season? Or they're going to be putting all the chips on Thomas Tuchel's shoulder to go and finish in the top 4, which I think at this point it's still, pretty doable. It's still pretty achievable that he can finish in the top 4. But from the looks of it, he will finish in the top 4. If he does, it will be because of others' inconsistency, not because he's going to do a transformation or a magical sort of change to Chelsea. They're going to be changing the way they play, changing the way they, they attack or they defend, pretty much, because they have problems at both ends of the pitch, to be fair. And he will make them a more solid side, a more compatible side, a more a harmonized side, to be fair, more homogeneous side. That is the word I'm looking for. So he needs to establish harmony within the ranks of the club. He needs to have a certain stable shape, because that is one of the problems of his predecessor in Frank Lampard, that he didn't have a stable shape at the club. He didn't have some sort of clear plan at certain points. Although he has ideas, like there's a difference. A coach should have an idea of what his club looks like. Like, for example, Klopp, his idea of football is gegenpressing. Pep Guardiola's idea of football is those triangles and squares you see in the midfield. Hansi Flick's idea of football, for example, is, counter press and intensive pressing and playing the high line. Like, these kind of ideas that are general and define the coaches. But the plan is what you put on the pitch, on the boards, on the whiteboards in the dressing room, how the players are disposable on the pitch, how they are distributed on the pitch, their positioning, their placement, how they intercept the balls, how they place it, how the right back and the right wing, for example, should be interlinking or overlapping or underlapping each other, how the right wing should tuck in, and those kind of details that define the game. This is what I mean by plan. Frank Lampard seemed very confused about this game plan in the latter part of his tenure, really, with Ziyech and Mount and Havertz and Werner creating all sorts of problems for him, which were good problems at a certain point, but then they turned into bad problems because they affected the efficiency of the club and affected their sort of work rate and success rate in front of goal in particular, because they lacked a killer instinct and some slick football in the latter end of the pitch where they need to score goals. So for Tuchel now, the biggest challenge I think is to find the rhythm, find the tempo, find a shape for that club that will give him some decent spine to build on for the rest of the season. Again, asking him for a top 4 finish or asking him to win trophies is going to be a far-fetched possibility at the moment, because I think Chelsea are way past the point of saving themselves enough for a title win. It will take a lot of work straight off the bat, and the first game that they have is against Wolves, so it ain't easy. They face City in a couple of weeks' time, so that's not easy as well. There's the Champions League game against Atletico Madrid, so there's a lot of things that can go wrong in the space of the next few weeks or the first month of Tuchel's tenure. Now, credit to him, the fact that he had good talks with some players, and is going to keep using the youth players and going to keep using the academy players. The Sparta report suggesting that it's going to be, given the stick to Billy Gilmore, which is really bad, and they're going to be losing another prospect like they lost Tariq Lamptey to Brighton. So I think this is good from Tuchel that he's going to be using academy players. We'll see what he's going to be doing with the club for the rest of the season. It does look likely that he won't have any signings added in January, so he will just stick with the current squad. We'll see what he does. Can he improve some players? Can he bring some players back to life? Jorginho is certainly in the fridge now. The fact that he didn't leave the club until now is pretty surprising, considering that he spent most of the season so far being benched and playing only the FA Cup and the League Cup games. So the expectations from Tuchel, I think, in terms of objectives and results, are really low. But in terms of what he can do with the club as a shape, as a plan, as a style of play, I think they're really high. People expect an instant change in the way Chelsea play. They don't expect a quick turnaround of results and quick turnaround that will see them, for example, go 4th or 3rd or try to compete for the title, although that's still technically possible, although it needs, a lot of consistency from Chelsea as well as a lot of inconsistency from the other club. And in the end, we'll always wait and see how things are going to be panning out with Thomas Tuchel. Can his tenure at Chelsea last longer than Lampard's? I personally think it won't, and you can hold me accountable for this comment because I will be reminded with it if he passes the 18-month mark, like Lampard did. You know what? If he passes if he passes the 4th of July, 2022, which is next year, 4th of July 2022, if he's still the manager by then, I think I'm going to eat a big piece of humble pie. Anyway, that's the end for this little bit window of debate about Thomas Tuchel. Like, share, comment on this video, subscribe to the channel, most importantly if you're new, enable notifications to receive all the updates. Follow us on social media. I'm at SouthPSP on Twitter, PitchSidePod. On Instagram, you can listen on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform to the podcast dropping tomorrow. And, I was your boy, the HD, the PSP, and until the next time, of course, which is going to be the Chelsea Wolves review, hopefully, I will be seeing you soon. Goodbye.